Hello everyone and welcome to a very special video. As you have known and I've been telling you guys, I am releasing a fall and Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos DIY session. So that is what today's video is all about. I just hope that it really brings you guys a source of inspiration. There are some items that I used in this video DIY that are thrifted, but the majority of the items are mostly brand new. But you know, you can always do it however you like to. This is just my own interpretation, my own way of creating these things. Again, you can do it any way that you'd like in your own style. I just hope that this brings you like a source of inspiration again to think of like ideas that you would want to utilize into your own home. Now, the Halloween is still here, as you guys can see. For the most part, I think I am going to be leaving the jack-o'-lanterns out for the fall season. I might just flip them around. Not too sure yet. You guys will have to wait and see until I do a fall home tour, which will be coming out later on in the month of November. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And again, I hope you guys like these DIYs. Let me know in the comments down below what are your thoughts on every single one of these. And I hope that you guys truly enjoy them. So I will see you guys on our next video. And I do hope that you enjoy this DIY session of creative crafts for the fall season and also for Dia de los Muertos. For this DIY, I'm going to be flipping this thrift find. I shared this with you all. It was a pumpkin that I found at Goodwill, and it was originally from Home Goods. So we're going to turn it into a faux terracotta pumpkin, and you can do this with almost any pumpkin. Now, before we get started on painting, we're going to go ahead and clean the surface. That is something that I recommend for all of you. Whether it's something like this or an item that you are painting, you always want to have a clean surface before applying any paint to any item. So for this DIY, I'm going to be using just a disposable paper plate, a brush for painting, the plaster of Paris, and also a terracotta color. So we're going to go ahead and pour out a little bit of the plaster of Paris. Now this is going to be exactly the same way that I did my Halloween pumpkins. Now just play it by eye, mix a little bit at a time, and I will advise you that the plaster of Paris does tend to make your color of choice a lot more lighter in color because of the white mixing into the paint. So I'm using this terracotta color that I got from Michael's. It was very inexpensive, and I probably recommend that you probably invest more money into buying the larger size one, just because I ended up buying so many small ones to completely coat this pumpkin. And you're just going to simply mix in the paint and the plaster mixed together. So just like the Halloween ones that I created, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. Now, one thing that I do recommend for you, if you don't want a lighter version of the color that you chose, I recommend that you do a final paint job. So once the mixture has been applied to your pumpkin and you are finished with it and are happy with the texture, go back and paint over that surface with just the paint only if you want to keep the color that you chose. Just because, again, the plaster does make the paint a lighter color than what you see. So we're going to go ahead and coat this pumpkin completely. You want to make sure that you get every layer and inch covered. Now, I didn't paint the bottom of the pumpkin. I chose to leave that alone, but we're also going to go ahead and cover up the stem. And I just really think that this color is going to brighten up this pumpkin. It was a very light pale blue, and this color just really pops. Look at that terracotta color. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now, of course, this is a dupe for the Pottery Barn pumpkins. It's more of an inspirational piece. They did bring out a set of fall pumpkins as well, just like they did for Halloween with the jack-o'-lantern faces. And I just really love how this came out, and it's super simple and super easy, and all of you can do this at home as well. For our next DIY, we're going to go ahead and recreate these Pottery Barn pumpkins from their collection, which are white terracotta pumpkins, as you can see. And we're going to be using these foam pumpkins that I purchased from Walmart. You can definitely find them elsewhere. They were around $6 for this set, and you can find them at Dollar Tree as well. And these are foam, which will absolutely work. We're basically just going to be painting over them with a terracotta color. So it's basically the same procedure, but minus the plaster. So we're going to be using the Folkart Terracotta paint in Adobe White. I absolutely love this collection, and you can find it at Michael's. And we're basically just going to do that. It's very simple. We will not need to do any plaster of Paris mix because this paint of the folk art leaves a very slight light layer of terracotta effect. So that is one step that you will not have to do. So we're going to go ahead and just apply the white paint all over the pumpkins, and it's going to be super simple. You want to make sure that you also do the stems as well. Now I left the stems for the very end because I was holding the pumpkin on with one hand and painting with the other, and it becomes very helpful if you do this trick. So leave the stems at the very end, and you're just going to apply a layer to them as well. And these came out super gorgeous, and I just love how simple this DIY for a dupe for the terracotta pumpkins came out. This next DIY is super simple. I don't even know if it's called a DIY, but we're going to be using this crate that I found at Goodwill. You can definitely find a lot of them when you thrift, and you just choose any size, color, anything that will work for you. I also thrifted these bags of apples for $2. They were originally from Target, and they were just absolutely perfect. I really, really love these because they have like a kind of like what I'm calling a crystallized coating. I'm going to show you right now. It looks sparkly, like it's almost covered in sugar. And I just love that effect that these apples have. They almost glisten in the sun. And these are going to be so perfect. And yet again, this is another simple and easy DIY. You can also do this if you want to create a crate for pumpkins. You're basically just going to put in all of the apples or whatever item you choose into the crate. But this is something so simple that you can do. Go into your local thrift store and search for a crate that you can utilize for any of your styling at home for the fall season, and just choose whatever you want. You can do apples, you can do a mixture of apples and pumpkins, or you can just do pumpkins, or you can do a full collection of different fall gourds and stuff like that that can go into the crate, and it's super duper easy. Anyone can do this. That's why it's kind of hard for me to say this is really a DIY, but I just think it came out so nice and I absolutely love it. It will be perfect for my fall display for the season. For this next DIY, you guys, this is going to be absolutely so simple. So for Dia de los Muertos, the sugar skulls are very symbolic. And instead of buying some, I decided to make my very own. Now, I am very, in love with the terracotta look right now. So you guys can do this however way you want. And I'm using one of these skulls, which is actually part of the Dia de los Muertos collection from Ashland. This was $9.99, but I bought it at 40% off. Definitely check your Michaels stores. There may be a better sale currently on. It may be 50% already. I went this week and saw that they were already marked down to 50% off, but always check your stores, check on the app or on the website to see what the current sale is on these items. So I'm going to be making a dupe inspiration. I'll go ahead and insert a picture right here, you guys, of the look that I got inspired from. So these sugar skulls or terracotta skulls are originally from West Elm and they're very beautiful. Now, of course, these do not match the same as those, but I am only taking inspiration from the color and the fact that they're terracotta. Now, this isn't terracotta. As you guys can see, this is just, I believe it's pure ceramic. So yeah, it's an LED ceramic decor piece. And this has a light. So I won't be utilizing this, but it does light up, as you guys can see. But I'm not going to be using it with the light on. I'm only using the feature of the skull, basically. I could easily take this off. It's glued on with hot glue. I don't have to necessarily for this DIY. I'm just going to leave it as is. And I'll show you guys how it looks like once it's painted. I already have a few that I've completed to showcase how it looks like light, you know, with the light on. And it's just not very pretty with the light on. And that's because, of course, you know, the paint is going to show through with the light effect and it's going to show the brush strokes. So you're going to need a skull. You don't necessarily have to, you know, get these skulls from Michaels. I just really like these because they're already ready for you. And they have intricate designs all over the skull. You do want to, if you are doing an ofrenda, you have to kind of get a skull that has some type of intricate detail. It doesn't really have to be this much as this one has. As you guys can see, it has details all over. It just, you know, you can't use a regular skull. It just might look a little bit off because it most likely will be like that's more for Halloween decor. But you can just use any skull. I mean, I guess you could use a Halloween one, but personally for me, I'm going to be using one that has these intricate details. But there's so many different skulls that you can do. You could even do a simple one with just the design on the eyes or the teeth. You don't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be as elaborate as this one. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So this is what you're going to need. You're going to need a skull. You're also going to need terracotta paint. Now, again, this is another option. I am going for that terracotta look, but normally ofrendas are, you know, everyone has their own interpretation. You're able to do them very colorful. I'm doing more of the neutral route. Some people do, you know, bright purples, reds, blues, pinks, etc. But I'm going the neutral route, so I'm going to be using this by Folkart Terracotta in the color clay pot. This is 2 fluid ounces. I got this at Michael's, which is what they sell as well. And they have a lot of different colors in the terracotta line, and this gives you a lightly textured look. So this is acrylic paint and it will give you a textured look of a faux terracotta. If you don't want the terracotta effect, then go ahead and just color these in matte colors, in any color again that you're doing your ofrenda. I am going heavily based on creating a West Elm dupe. Now, of course, I won't be doing the flowers. The West Elm ones have flowers on the top. That's just a little bit too elaborate for me. I'm just really going off more on the colors. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. You will need your color paint, of course, a paintbrush, and I just used a paper plate to put some of the paint and start painting. I'm gonna go ahead and remove all these tags and get the item ready to get painted. Some suggestions when painting is going to be to do in the same brush stroke direction. So I'm going to be going forward, 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 moving all around the skull. And I just recommend that you guys do that because then the texture is only going to go one way versus if I were to go up, down, sideways, who knows, whatever direction. I just really recommend that you try to stay within the same direction so that way it all looks like a flawless look. Now, the only thing about this terracotta paint is that it did require for at least 3 coatings at the most. Now, this will definitely vary depending on the skull material that you choose. You could most likely even probably do a plastic skull. I'm pretty sure acrylic will hold on to it. But for this ceramic one, for these specifically from Michaels, it did take a total of 3 coats for it to really, really get that matte finish look. So this is going to look very textured after it's finished, you guys, but it's very light actually. So it's not a really, really, really rough, excessive look on it. It just really has that stony texture, and you can feel some of the ridges once it dries. So it's absolutely such a beautiful paint. I really, really love these colors. They have so many different varieties in the folk art colors for terracotta, and I'm pretty sure there's a color for all of you to choose from. I actually chose 3 different colors. So I'm going to have 3 colors of these skulls, and they're all in terracotta colors. So I just absolutely fell in love with this color and the other 2. Another thing you want to make sure is that you always paint through your grooves. So see how this skull has a lot of grooves? You want to make sure that you just use the tip and try to get in. Now, this kind of goes against the rule, which was I said to only go one direction, but you can easily fix that. Just go ahead and get into all the grooves before it starts drying, which you have some time, so you don't have to be like super speedy about it. But start getting into all those grooves really quick, and then go back in and do the same direction that you're doing, so that way it looks like the same texture. Now, a good example of that is going to be like right here. If you guys can see, this is all going this direction right here. But if I were to change it to downward, then you see the texture has changed. It's no longer smooth that way. It's now going down, which to me, I mean, this may not be something big to you guys, but for me it is. It's just that, you know, perfection in me. I really wanted to just be in the same direction, so it kind of looks like just a uniformal look. So this is our very first coating, and we are done. Now, depending on the paint that you choose, since the terracotta is a little bit, let's see, it's lightly textured acrylic paint to create a terracotta texture on decorative crafts and home decor. It is water-based, non-toxic, indoor, outdoor. So let dry 1 hour between coats, you guys. So if you're using the Folkart Terracotta, you have to wait 1 hour until you apply the next coating. Now for these specific skulls, I definitely did do that. I added a total of 3 coatings. So this was just 1 coating. I did a second one and the third one. Now, it may take time as far as the coatings go, because you also want to make sure that you don't miss out on the bottom grooves of the skull, because what I have to do once it's dry, I flip it over upside down and I start coloring or painting the bottom base area, because you want to make sure that it's a clean look and a clean finish, so that way none of the white exposes out when you are displaying it. And right now you can kind of see some of the graded areas that all require to be filled in with another coating. So that's something that you will definitely have to do if you want them to be perfect. Now, again, this is just me personally, how I want them. I don't want any of the white to kind of expose through any of the holes or the ridges or the areas where all the attention of the detail is what you want. You want all of this detail to show through the eyes as well, the bridge of the nose, the teeth. So you're gonna want to make sure that you go in there and add another coating of it, so it also doesn't look like it's kind of grayed out, because what I've noticed is that it kind of gives a gray finish once it dries, and you don't want that. Now this is going to be a thrift flip. We're going to utilize all of these vases that I thrifted. I shared these with you on various hauls, and now we're going to create our ofrenda flowers. These are the offerings that we are going to be placing into the ofrenda. So as you can see, these were all thrifted. Again, I shared these on various hauls, and I absolutely loved all of these neutral colors. They're definitely giving the Mexican pottery vibe that I wanted. So we're simply going to take these vases and start utilizing them for our ofrenda by making them into floral arrangements. So definitely head into your local thrift store, be on the search for any pottery for your ofrenda if you want to create an ofrenda, an altar for the Day of the Dead and remembrance of your family. And we're going to start using these right here. These are absolutely so amazing. I couldn't believe that I found all of these thrifted. You can definitely thrift for items like this. If you are in a bind and you don't find items like this, you can simply buy glassware vases. I know they sell them at Dollar Tree, and you can use the Folkart Terracotta color paints to paint over them, and it should give you the same look as a terracotta vase. So we're going to go ahead and utilize these florals that I got from Michael's. I bought them when they were currently either 50 or 75% off. I recommend that you definitely check your local Michael's store. Check online to see if they still have any sales going on for the fall season. Inventory may be very slim, so definitely check to see what you can find. Now, normally for the Day of the Dead, the cempasúchil, which is the marigold, is the flower of choice for the Day of the Dead. But I am actually using these, which these are not cempasúchil, these are not marigolds. So I just chose what I could purchase in plentiful, and they were very inexpensive. For this DIY, you're also going to need some pliers as we're going to be cutting off the stems. So these bouquets are not going to stay within the bunch that they are. We are going to be separating them to create our different styles into the vases. So let's go ahead and grab our vases and start building our very first vase. We're going to start with this really large one, rather large one that I found at Goodwill. This is actually one of my most favorite ones. I really love the handles on the sides. So we're going to go ahead and start picking flowers. So what I'm doing is I'm selecting the color that best combines well with the color of the vase. So I didn't want to choose the white ones because those would blend in. So anything in these forms of like these bright colors would definitely do the trick. So we're going to go ahead and choose those. Now, as you can see, the stem is way too long and we don't want that. We want to go ahead and shorten them. So that is where the pliers come into play. We're going to go ahead and cut them individually, just removing some of the tags here. Always do that beforehand. It will definitely make your setup a lot more easier. So we're going to go ahead and start clipping these off. And again, we're going to be doing them one by one, but make sure that you measure first by sticking in the stem to see how short you want to make it. So we're going to play it safe and just remove a little bit at a time until we like how the stems are staying in. We don't want them too out, and we also don't want them all the way sunken in into the vase. So just be very careful when cutting your flower stems. As you can see, I was having a little bit of trouble. It is a very thick plastic and metal that form the base of the bouquet. So as you can see, we remove some of the portion off, and we are going to test it to see if it's the right length. Again, we want to make sure it's not too high up where you can see all the stems exposed. I wanted most of the stems to be inside the actual vase. So we're going to go ahead and test it out and see if that works. If not, you just simply clip off a little bit more, and that's the space that I'm talking about, you guys. You guys can see right there, there's that space between the leaves and the florals. But I was actually going to be removing the leaves. I didn't want the leaves attached to the flowers. I just wanted the pure flowers to be the only attention that they were forming. So I go ahead and remove those later on in the video. And that's simply all you're going to do. For each single vase, you're going to go ahead and try to mix the right color in with accordance to the color of your vase. Again, you can simply do however way you want it. There is really no right or wrong way when it comes to making DIYs. You can definitely do them in the way that you like. So whatever makes you happy, go ahead and do it. Now for our last DIY for our ofrenda for Day of the Dead, I'm going to be creating a cross full of marigold flowers. So we're going to be using this foam base. This is going to be the base of our cross. And I found these items at Michael's. And then I'm also going to be using this quite large block. This is a flat block that I also got at Michael's. This block is going to be the formation of our cross. So you're going to be needing these two items and also something to cut the foam with. It's very messy, so just be very careful when you open these for the very first time. The foam kind of splatters everywhere, the bits and pieces. So I'm going to be using this cross as a stencil. You can definitely freehand it or use a ruler to form a cross shape, but I'm going to be using this as a stencil. It's super easy. All I'm doing is going to be tracing around the cross, and I'm going to be cutting it out with the sharp tool. I think this is the most easiest way just to, get the shape of your cross. You can do a small one, you can get a large one. I had a lot of foam to work with, so this was actually the perfect size. So that's basically all you're going to do is trace along the sides of your cross into the foam. So this is going to be the shape that we are going to be setting up on the base of the green foam. And the green foam is basically just like a little pedestal that will hold up the cross. And this is all going to be full of flowers. So I am so excited with this DIY. I think this is going to come out so nice, and it's going to be a very perfect centerpiece for my altar for Dia de los Muertos. Now, once you have traced your shape or freehand drawn it, you're going to go ahead and take your sharp tool. Again, just be very careful. This is just a little kitchen blade that I had. And we're going to go ahead and cut out the entire cross with this. And one thing that I didn't show on camera is I actually, there was some ridges and little bits and pieces that I removed off camera, so I recommend that you do that. You can use a sandpaper and just kind of smooth out the edges and the entire length of the cross, so that way it just gives you a very smooth finish. But definitely do it somewhere in a clear opening, because again, this foam is very messy, and when you cut into it or sand it to get those smooth edges, you're going to create a really big mess. So now we're going to go ahead and start putting in our flowers. So basically the same technique as the floral vases. We're going to go ahead and use our pliers, and we're going to start cutting off some of the flowers from the stems. So I got these also from Dollar Tree and a few from Michael's. So I'm just going to be using a mixture of different flowers. Again, keeping in that same color scheme for Dia de los Muertos, you see a lot of marigolds, a lot of oranges, a lot of yellows, and that's the cempasúchil flower. But again, these are not cempasúchil, they're not marigolds. I just improvised with what I could find and afford at the same time. I wanted this to be also an inexpensive DIY. So basically, again, you're just going to go and get your pliers and clip off just a little bit of stem. You don't want too much stem because then it will pierce through the back of your cross, and we don't want that to see. Even though the cross, the backing is going to be facing the wall, which you won't be able to see, the perfectionist in me knows that it's there, so I just didn't want to have that exposed. So you're going to go ahead and just puncture in your flower with the stem and start building your cross. Now, I will say that I actually went back and changed up some of the flowers just because I really didn't like how these big flowers were centered throughout the cross. They kind of made the cross look a little bit funky in a way. It kind of seemed like an odd shape. You kind of couldn't tell that it was a cross. So I do recommend that if you do want to use big flowers, use them at the bottom of the base of the cross, either the green base that will hold the cross or more towards the bottom of the cross where it begins, and start putting more of smaller flowers at the very top because you want your cross to have that shape. So as you guys can see here, I started putting a lot of bigger flowers, but I ended up changing it completely because I just didn't like the shape that it was forming. I feel like you couldn't really tell that it was a cross because those flowers were too big and they were taking up a lot of space. So once you do add all of your flowers, again, the finished product is going to it's going to look so much different, you guys, so stay tuned for that. You're going to go ahead and grab your base. So this is going to basically be holding up our cross, and you're also going to need flowers for this as well. So same technique, just go ahead and clip off some of those florals that you want to use for this cross, and you're going to fill it around all around the base to completely cover it so none of it, none of the greenness is exposed out. And we're going to go ahead and do that and finish off this DIY. To set up the cross, you're going to need a few skewers. So we're going to use a few of these to prop up our cross. And again, you're going to use the pliers and cut these into pieces. I broke the skewers into 3 pieces, and these are going to help us prop up the cross into the bottom base of the green foam. So what I'm doing is simply just using the pliers to cut these into 3 pieces, 3 sticks, and we're going to go ahead and pierce them through the bottom of the cross. So you're going to go ahead and do that, but make sure not to pierce it all the way through because the other end will be placed into the green foam base. And the more the merrier, the more of the skewers that you insert into the cross, the more stronger it will hold. Once your skewers have been placed into the bottom of the cross, you're going to go ahead and pierce them through the bottom base. Now, I do recommend that you actually hold the actual skewers when you're trying to pierce it into the bottom piece, because if you push the actual cross, which is the white foam, you're just simply going to push up more of the skewer to the top and not pierce it through the bottom. So definitely using both hands, grab the skewers and push those towards the bottom of the base. Again, do not grab the cross because you're simply going to just push the skewers up more towards the top of the white foam. And then once you do that, definitely make sure you revise your base. Make sure that there's no green areas. You can probably find this also in a white color so the green isn't so noticeable, but try to cover up any empty spaces with more flowers. do hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below what were your thoughts on these DIY ideas. Now, I absolutely fell in love with each and every one of them. Each of them is unique and different, and I cannot wait to style them into my home for the fall season and for the celebration of Day of the Dead. And I will see you guys on our next adventure. I do hope that you guys enjoy this type of content, as I am trying to push it out more, showing you how I utilize my thrift items, showing you how I DIY certain things. You know, sometimes thrifting for them can be a little bit difficult if you are, you know, you can't always find everything in your wish list. So sometimes you do have to go, you know, follow the route of buying brand new. So some of these DIYs, you know, I wasn't able to utilize fully everything that was secondhand. But that is absolutely fine, because, you know, we can still go out and create some amazing things by, you know, creativity and finding items that are low cost. You know, I was able to utilize some of those thrift finds. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this type of content. Let me know in the comments down below what were your thoughts, and make sure to stay tuned for our next video, which I will be decorating my ofrenda. That is my altar for the Day of the Dead, which that will also be utilizing a lot of things that I purchased brand new. And I just wanted to bring you guys along for that decorating session. So I do hope that you guys enjoy that as well, which will be coming out soon. I will see you on our next video, and make sure that you guys hit that like button. Make sure if you're also not subscribed and you like the content today, I would love and appreciate for you to hit that subscribe button and become a member here of the Golden Finds family. I will see you all on our next video. Bye everyone.